Killing Eve follows two parallel stories. One that follows Eve, who I play, and the other played by Jodie Villanelle, who is an assassin. My task is eventually to find this assassin.
But it's also an exploration of the psychology of two very different women who've had very different experiences and lives, who somehow focus on each other and are drawn to each other professionally and unprofessionally.
Ich fragen, wo Sie diesen Schal haben?
Meine Mutter hat ein Geschäft in München. Ich kann Ihnen gerne die Adresse geben.
Ah, schade. Ich bin hier nur für ein paar Tage. Trotzdem danke.
We came across the novellas by Luke Jennings, which we thought were very gripping, full of potential. You could immediately see that they were crying out to be brought to the screen in some form.
We're a tiny little team at SID, and each of us read them quite quickly and really enjoyed them because although it is a genre that's quite familiar, he had an incredibly sort of fresh take on it where it felt that the women were very, very strong in it.
Sally Woodward Gentle had the idea of asking Phoebe to come in and talk to us about it and suggested that she might adapt these novellas.
I was so surprised because I thought I was just kind of a comedy writer, considered a comedy writer in the industry, and she luckily kind of saw beyond that and said, no, these are dramatic novels, but we would like them to have a different, more humorous slant to them. I read them and just thought these characters were so cool. And they were such polar opposites, and their worlds were such polar opposites, and yet they fixated on each other. And the challenge of making these two really different worlds exist in one show was something that really appealed to me.
It was a feeling that she had the black edge that we would need to bring to it because I love black humour, and Phoebe has got this sort of extraordinary charisma and energy, and I felt that it would be very different to other female assassin pieces that were out there.
When I first met Phoebe on the Skype session it was very exciting to hear how she wants to develop a story from the book, and her energy and her humour and her mind and thought is so amazing to follow how she's putting it in the scripts.
Well, Phoebe has an extraordinary gift because she has the ability to find the absurd and the comic in everything. And on the other side of her humour, there's a real sort of anxiety about a world that you can't trust anyone in, and she captures that absolutely brilliantly.
There's been an assassination in Vienna. Victor Kedron was a Russian politician visiting Austria last week. He was not a popular man, but he had an unfortunately high profile. Yesterday, Kedron was coming out of an exceptionally good, by the way, sushi restaurant near Steffenplatz with his girlfriend, Kasia Molkovska. Somehow, about 50 yards from the restaurant, the assassin managed to slice Kedron's femoral artery with a blade without him or his girlfriend noticing. He was bleeding for about a minute before he collapsed.
Cool.
Killing Eve is primarily a character story, it's a character piece. But as we're dealing with an MI6 agent chasing an assassin, we do have moments of action. So it has been quite a lot of fun shooting those sequences.
Everybody likes doing a death scene, certainly from actors' points of view. They love it if they have a death. So there was no shortage of people queuing up to be killed on Killing Eve.
With episode 1, we went to Tuscany. It was our first week of filming.
Villanelle is tasked with killing a mafia boss.
She arrives in Tuscany to do this kill, and there's like an unexpected party going on.
It couldn't have been a more fabulous way to start the shoot.
In the original novellas, it was all set in an opera, and we liked the idea of taking it more out into the countryside so we could really get the kind of landscape of Tuscany and take her into a more intimate and family environment.
Once we had cast Jodie, we sent her away for some training because we knew that it was going to be a very physical role. There were going to be lots of requirements for her to be climbing, jumping, fighting.
I've never done stunts before for any job, so I was already kind of terrified because I'm such a clumsy person. There was one particular stunt where I had to climb up a drain pipe on the side of this building.
Back in London, we had a little rehearsal time. We went to one of the climbing walls, got Jodie comfortable climbing at heights. When we got to Tuscany, we rigged some safety lines. We just had to make sure the drain pipe was securely bolted in, and we also put some climbing blocks into the wall.
We chose a technocrane because it would enable us to track with her.
Whenever you're doing something like that, the skill is to make it look as if the actor is in jeopardy and there's some kind of danger, but there needs to be no danger whatsoever.
I really love the idea that she walks into the party with nothing on her but her hairpin, and then she stabs it into his eye and then injects the poison.
It took a while to work out exactly how to do that so that it feels real.
You know, our job's smoke and mirrors. It always has been, always will be. For instance, the stabbing in the eye. If you actually analyse the shot, camera's at a certain angle, the fist comes in, it's both actors reacting to that, which actually sells the stunt.
And a very, very clever hairpin that she uses. We don't actually have a hypodermic needle at the end of it, but we put that in post.
We saw this character be so light and friendly and charming, and then in the moment that she actually penetrates this guy's face, Jodie found a darkness and a pleasure in that was really menacing, very easily.
Constantine, played by Kim Bodnia, working on behalf of this unknown organisation, was recruiting. He spotted something very special in Villanelle.
She was very unlucky in her life, so I brought her in for our little company to use her as an assassin.
The thing with Villanelle, what drives her is her freedom. She does her kills, she gets her money, she spends her money on what she likes, and she has no one around her to tell her what to do.
She doesn't come into contact with that many people, or when she does, it's to kill them.
We had quite a few sessions with an extraordinary psychologist who specialises in psychopaths. He deals with male psychopaths, and we suggested to him that maybe female psychopaths get away with it more. He couldn't deny that.
How do you make people care about psychopaths is the question that kept coming up early on. And the answer is cast Jodie Comer.
Jodie's extraordinary. She's got this chameleon quality where she can flip between characters.
You'll be standing in the queue for catering, or you'll be on set. Suddenly you realise that it's Jodie. And that's obviously great for the role because she's able to get much closer to people without people realising, but it's a very clever skill as well that Jodie brings to Villanelle.
She is Villanelle, and she's given her this extraordinary charisma that we genuinely only dreamt we'd achieve in casting.
You'll make the mistake of falling in love with her, and then she will kill you.
And I think she just enjoys it. She has very, very little remorse, and she's cool with that.
Oh my God, Donna, wake up, it's okay. It's okay, what? Baby! It's okay, wake up. What was it?
I fell asleep on both my arms. Oh, they're coming back now.
When we first meet Eve, you really see her home life with her husband, Nico, and they have a very, very good relationship. And you see her at her job at MI5, and she has a very fine job. Everything is fine about her life.
Eve is an incredibly complicated person who outwardly seems to be a little bit ditzy, a little bit random, not really showing any great ambition, but inwardly she knows that she's really clever. What she doesn't acknowledge, her long-term obsession with women who kill, actually taps into something that's very dark within her own soul.
She's a pleaser at the beginning of the show, and she's incredibly apologetic, and she wants everyone to like her, and she feels very protective about her marriage. And then as the series goes on, that starts sort of falling away. And even though you can see it's the wrong decision, you're still rooting for her.
Rationale goes out the window, her relationship goes out the window, and there is a dogged determination that she needs to find out not only who this person really is, but also why are they doing what they're doing.
I think it's a very primal drive that is making Eve sacrifice a lot of the normal things in her life to connect and to find and to capture Villanelle.
She has brought the guts, the heart, the courage, the vulnerability of Eve, and to be able to balance the humour of this show with the drama. I was worried it was going to be the tricky thing, but with Sandra, it's been a dream to watch because she can flip from desperately trying to gnaw on a croissant because she's hungover to becoming fixated with an assassin who's implicated in a huge political conspiracy, and she can do that like that.
Now
the most likely people to assassinate a Chinese leader with a penchant for fetish are the Chinese.
I know. I want to find out who's been looking into it here.
Why do you think she used your name?
I don't know.
Eve and Villanelle's lives are very, very different.
There are things that I think that she needs to discover about herself. Actually, I think that both women have with each other and can only be discovered through each other and in connection with each other.
Villanelle was born in Russia and had an incredibly troubled upbringing.
Eve was brought up in the States. She moved to the UK.
Eve is in London doing her desk job with MI5 and is slightly bored.
She finds this energizing force through Villanelle, which kind of breaks her out of her usual mold.
Villanelle is absolutely having the time of her life. She's young, she's free, and she has a job that she loves.
She has unlimited money, so she is able to spend money on luxuries that she likes, champagne, clothes.
But that's all she puts her money into, you know. I feel like when she was younger, she didn't have these luxuries, and now she has all this money, and that's the way she likes to spend it.
Villanelle is extremely conscious all the time of the effect that she has on people around her, whereas Eve is quite the reverse. She never really thinks at all about what she looks like or the effect that she's having on other people. She's extremely sort of unself-conscious. So that's very much reflected in their costume. And for someone like Villanelle, she thinks, putting that with that, she must be crazy, you know, but for Eve, it's just like, whatever. It's the first thing that she puts on in the morning. She sees it on a chair and she sticks it on. So there's a terrific dramatic contrast between these two women.
I'm so jealous of Jodie's wardrobe. Villanelle wears these fantastic designer things. It's so great. And Eve is a little bit more practical. She's schlubby.
You know, she's never in a boring outfit, Villanelle. And then yet, on the other end of the spectrum, we have Eve, who's always in a boring outfit because she's very cerebral and she just cares about linking things up and reading in her office, which is piled with books, and she has a very warm relationship with her husband, whereas Villanelle's very isolated.
That's the kind of really intriguing part for us, the art department, on this drama, was to create these two very separate, very kind of different worlds, where Eve's world is quite normal. She's finding herself in a very grey, very beige office, opposite this crazy existence that Villanelle has.
The lighting is just part of that marriage, really, of all of those elements. We sort of identified at times a cooler look for Villanelle because, in a way, that's the obvious path you'd take for the psychopathic one. Eve's home life was the sort of root of that warmer look. We wanted that to feel like a normal, warm and cosy space.
Because it's all about the characters and their little details that link the two worlds. Everyone's really made it a psychological piece rather than just an artistic painting of two different people's worlds.
Villanelle?
You have your own idea and then you come onto a set and they're like, oh, so this is where you've been living for the past, 7 years? And you're like, okay.
We wanted it to be an apartment that everybody said that they would want.
Talking to Christian the whole time about the flat, he really ran with it. I mean, all I said to him was, she has style, but she also doesn't really completely know who she is, and she's desperately trying to be a normal human being. But at the same time, she has this kind of feeling that she is above everybody. He managed to crash those two things together so beautifully. So when you walk into this gorgeous flat that she owns, it does still feel like a young woman in her 20s who just happens to have wigs and guns in her drawers.
You want the space to look real. So you get all the fittings from France. We make the mood boards, so we make sure that all the colours work together. Make sure that, the detailing of the flat is right, and you adapt it a little bit to make it film friendly.
If you look around the apartment, there's loads of little knickknacks that just don't look like they belong in the same room. But I feel like they're probably all little things that she's collected. She travels a lot.
If you go to most people's houses, the furniture isn't all bought at the same time. It's acquired over time. And so we've tried to give that impression of something something that has organically developed.
It's one thing of building a space that looks aesthetically pleasing. It is more important to have a space that can work for the drama, for the camera and for the actors.
For me, I'm always very super keen to work out with the production designer up front how I'm going to light it. So what will be built into the design of the set that will facilitate the lighting being, the right atmosphere and doing what you want it to do. As a cinematographer, we always hope that we will shoot the exteriors first and then come into the interiors in a studio or wherever they are on location and be able to match them in. The lighting rigs that we put in are designed to accommodate the sort of mixture of soft, cloudy light, a lot of which we had in Paris.
This is Villanelle's apartment, by the way. Incredible, like insane.
We set ourselves the rather awkward challenge of filming the story where the story is set. And so we filmed in Tuscany for Tuscany, and we filmed in Berlin, and we filmed in Romania, and they are all extraordinary locations that all feel incredibly different.
We've been to Paris, which I didn't actually get to see an awful lot of.
The most exciting thing for me thus far has been shooting in Trafalgar Square. I can't believe that anything is shot in Trafalgar Square, but there I was with Sandra with that wonderful pillar behind us and the National Gallery.
As Villanelle really starts taking over Eve's life, then we go on and then we have this fantastic international feel of the show.
Villanelle gets there first class. She just turns up, and it was, we didn't ever need to show how she got there because she just arrives. She just is there. Then we get the taxis and the luggage of Eve, and you have to see the kind of everyday nightmarish thing of travel. And those are the little fun things about two very different characters experiencing these cities in very different ways.
What we also wanted to find were what I call sort of the grubby operatics of those areas. We didn't really want to be skipping around the Eiffel Tower.
We've gone for sort of real part of Paris, just out of the centre, very Parisian, very definitely when you watch it, I think you can tell that you're definitely in Paris, but it's not full of those kind of touristy landmarks.
We also really wanted to put our characters in amongst the real people of those cities. Because it's quite a heightened show, we also wanted to ground it by thinking that these people are genuinely in our midst, and you could be sitting next to a psychopathic killer.
From a production point of view, we were having to set up a sort of co-production with the local talent in each of these countries, and you've got to get the key creative crew out there to recce, to find the locations, to look at the roads, road closures. We've got some stunts which take place.
The challenge being is that I'm used to working with my own team, so it's my job to sort of like communicate with my foreign stunt coordinator to create what I need and supplying equipment and making sure just everything's safe.
Setting up art departments in foreign countries always presents problems. For me, it's just been a matter of trying to keep the style coherent.
Going to Italy in high summer, occasionally the sun pops out at an inconvenient time in the wrong way, and as a cinematographer, you just have to learn to manage that. You don't film for a few minutes, or you start getting out the tools you have to soften the light and deflect it and so on.
You definitely get something extra special by being in the actual place.
Being live and on location is spectacular because you can't lie about that stuff.
Killing Eve is unique because it treads a tightrope between incredibly dramatic, shocking moments and incredibly light and enjoyable moments. And that's all down to Phoebe, who has this unique ability to make you laugh, make you cry, but never when you're expecting to.
The whole way through, we just pushed ourselves, the whole team pushing ourselves. What's the most surprising place we could go with this show? That's across all departments as well. Everyone was like, what is the kind of anti-genre of this show?
You watch your typical spy thriller or your typical crime drama and you know what and how and when, you just don't know who. And the whole build-up is you wait 7 hours over the course of a TV series to find out who done it, and it ends up being the barman's cousin from the very first episode. With this, you know who, it's the what and how and when, and that's what makes it so interesting. And anytime you think you know what's going to happen, you're very, very wrong.
And I really, really like those poles of things that are funny and sad and thrilling and dangerous. I mean, that's kind of like life. And I think actually that is more relatable than straight comedy or just straight drama.
And it's very seductive. You're seduced into thinking you're on quite a light journey and something really horrific happens. So the audience is on a roller coaster ride.
We have this preconception about assassins when you see them in a film, like they do everything with such ease and precision. And what I liked about Villanelle was she was a bit messy, and I found her quite relatable. Like I wanted people to watch her and relate to her in some way rather than her being this otherworldly person. Like she messes up and she does things wrong.
The fact that there are like two really, really strong leads, both happen to be female, I think is so unique and so relevant right now.
There is a very small proportion of women in front of the camera for shows which have got action in them. They're still very male dominated. So to have this really seen through the point of view of two women was very important.
Because ostensibly it's the same setup. It's just the details that make it different. It's just how these women would do something in a way that probably men wouldn't. And that to me is new and fresh.